with the head of your own party. You don't sit back and say, I must follow the leader, that you've got to have a rubber stamp Congress. I completely differ with Mr. Dulles when he says the heart of our foreign policy is to continue shipping, continue giving aid to allies who in turn are shipping goods to Red China. As of tonight, as of this moment, Red China is imprisoning American uniformed men. Now, while communist China has in her blood-stained dungeons American young men, we should not give $1 to any ally who is in turn shipping the sinews of economic and military strength to Red China.
That was Republican Senator Joseph McCarthy on NBC's Meet the Press back in 1954. The senator, known for his sensational but baseless charges of communist subversion in government circles, was criticizing President Eisenhower's administration and the response to the Cold War. Now, our next guest says there is a new McCarthy in the Trump era, far-right influencer Laura Loomer. Joining us now, staff writer at The Atlantic, Michael Scherer. His latest piece is called Make McCarthy Great Again. And in the piece, Michael, you write in part, quote, Loomer, the proud, defiant extremist troll, is one of the most influential public figures in what is still the most important country on the planet. Quite often, Trump doesn't just listen to Loomer, he does what she wants. Not so long ago, people who spoke like Loomer were ostracized from political parties and mainstream conversations, cast as the fringe. The 32-year-old Loomer belongs to a new era when any thought can be instantly published everywhere and the president is easy to reach on his cell phone. Out-of-bounds provocation drives attention. Attention increases influence, and the person who matters the most is almost certainly entertained. At the end of the day, it is called the Trump administration, she told me on our phone call. So the way I look at it, I play for an audience of one. I've heard different theories on Loomer's influence. One is that she, has managed to get a whole load of people fired from different parts of the administration because she thought that they weren't loyal enough to President Trump. But then there's another theory that actually there are people within the administration close to Donald Trump who think that she goes too far. She criticized him on certain issues, the Epstein files, and he doesn't like that. And at some point, she's going to overreach and be thrown out of the inner circle. Where are you?
I think both those things are true. She clearly has a lot of influence around the president. The president likes her contributions, has acted on her contributions. She's also infuriated a lot of people very high up in the White House because she complicates things for them. She goes after people for crimes that are not really crimes, having participated in the intelligence community during the first Trump term when the Russia investigation was happening, for instance, and so there, at the senior most levels in the White House, I think they deal with her on a regular basis. Sometimes they give her information because they want her help in getting people out, but they also would be very happy if she just went away. And it's still the case that no one controls access to the president. Susie Wiles or Vice President Vance do not tell the president what to do. He does what he wants to do, and they adjust to what he's doing. So that's sort of the situation.
Michael, great piece. Let's just tick through some of the things that Loomer has done. As Caddy mentioned, dismissals at the NSC, the National Security Agency, some at DHS. She ended Secret Service protection for Joe Biden's children. She's even blocked some Palestinian refugees from coming into the United States. I mean, her power seems, remarkable. So put her in some context, if you will. Have we seen a character like this before recently? And we should note the headline of your piece about Joe McCarthy. That's a comparison she did not mind when you made it.
No, she embraced it. And actually, after I published that piece yesterday, she tweeted that we need to bring back the House Un-American Affairs Committee, which is the separate red baiting committee that went after Hollywood in the late 40s and early 50s. She was actually very excited when I mentioned that comparison to her. I mean, what distinguishes Loomer, and I don't think there's precedent for this, is she's an online troll, basically. She gets attention by being provocative online, by offending people online, and that is her method. There are lots of people who do opposition research in Washington. There's lots of people who traffic in information, often to journalists like me, to try and get information out there. She just puts it up on Twitter. And the truth is, right as she says in the story, she's playing for an audience of one, and that audience is receptive to her. And I don't think there is any precedent for that. I mean, there's certainly been cases in the past where presidents or political leaders have leaned on their staff to figure something out, to do research, to figure out what to do about a certain problem, even when they're not working in the White House, but nothing on this scale. It's also true, and I think it's worth noting, that she is not always just doing what the president wants her to do. She's come after Pam Bondi and called repeatedly for her to be fired. She was very critical of the president accepting that Qatari plane for a refit as Air Force One, prompting him to actually call her and tell her to back down. And then she wrote a very apologetic social media post backing away from that. But she's operating very much, on her own drum. The other thing I'll mention is she often picks very niche issues. We're talking about the personnel stuff. She went after the bankruptcy board in Puerto Rico. Mm-hmm. She's gone after an issue that's excited a bunch of trial lawyers about payments for people who were injured by water at Camp Lejeune. She was very critical of the U.S. initially, saying they weren't going to let Chevron continue to do business in Venezuela. These are not clearly issues that fit in a Trump loyalty MAGA paradigm. Mm-hmm.
Michael, do you have any sense of why President Trump listens to her so much? Does he think she has some sort of her finger on the pulse of the MAGA base in a way that even he doesn't? Or why doesn't he just blow her off if she becomes an annoyance?
I think there are a couple of answers to that. One, he's always liked people like this. He had Roy Cohn as an advisor. He had Roger Stone as an advisor, very similar dispositions. Roger Stone's a mentor to Loomer. Second, he agrees with the thesis Loomer has, which is that the first term was fundamentally handicapped by people in the administration who are disloyal to him. And he wants another tool here to ferret that out. He feels like as long as he's keeping people scared of being disloyal and continuing to fire people, he's going to be more protected and he'll avoid some of the traps of the first term. And I think she's very useful in that. I mean, she has an anonymous tip line. She's an all-purpose. Anyone at any agency right now, if they don't like their office mate, can dig some piece of information up about them or their spouse or something they said 20 years ago and feed it to Laura Loomer. And if Loomer wants to use it, can maybe get that person pushed out of office. That's something you can't really do inside the chain of command. Susie Wiles is not going to take a tip from a deputy undersecretary at Defense and then, mess with that bureaucracy.
The new piece, Make McCarthy Great Again, is online now for The Atlantic. Staff writer Michael Scherer. Michael, thank you again.